Before we take our offertory today, we're entering into stewardship season. We've been talking about refreshing and renewing our sanctuary so that it can be a wonderful house of worship for us when we gather every week, so that we can use it for education and for serving our community. But we also want to, in this time, cast a vision for the future and think about what this church's goals are and where we intend to go. So Pastor Shannon has asked me, in light of that, to talk a bit about worship today and what our giving of our tithes and our gifts and our service means and why worship is valuable to us and worth investing in. So what is worship? That is easier asked than answered. The origin of the word comes from worth, as in to ascribe worth to something. Worship is not a general emotive act, but specifically the act of calling something valuable, worthy. When we worship, we declare Christ worthy. God, of course, doesn't need us to tell him that he's worthy, so what's the point? Why do we do it? Worship, for us, is an act of alignment. By declaring something to be worthy, for instance, Christ's demonstration of love in his ministry, his teaching, and most of all, his willing and unconditional sacrifice, we point to that which ought to be, that which we long to see reflected in our own individual lives, as well as our society and our culture. Thus, worship adjusts our perception. When we see in Christ meekness, gentleness, and kindness, and declare those things worthy, it causes us to look for and cultivate those same attributes in ourselves. Worship, ultimately, then, is transformation. It is the process by which the old self dies and the new is born in Christ. Death to life, stranger to friend, hatred to love. Worship does not just happen in a worship service, but a worship service is an opportunity for us to regularly set aside time to seek out that transformation. Our worship service is a discipline by which we continuously transform ourselves into the image of Christ. Music is one of many ways by which in worship we are transformed. Often when we grasp something intellectually, but music is what causes us to believe that which we know more deeply. Great music making requires us to be vulnerable, to release our shame, and be authentic. Thus, both in making and hearing music in worship, we imprint our beliefs with profundity, giving them greater depth of feeling and weight of import. In other words, music is a tool that leads directly to faith, to deep-seated trust in how Christ teaches us to live and love one another. That faith, fostered by music and our singing together, allows us to then go about our life outside of the worship service, carrying the worship with us, making us worshipful in our behavior, mimicking Christ in the small, ordinary, and mundane. I find myself incomparably blessed to be a part of this church community that has such a rich tradition of choral music making that glorifies Christ and points the way to which we are called to live in him. I am even more blessed to have a cohort of incredible, talented, and hardworking musicians sitting behind me. Would you give me a moment to just... Our vision for the future of music and worship in this church is one of growth and excellence, two attributes that already define our choir. When you give to Trinity, whether in your tithes, gifts, or service, you enable that growth, that excellence, to continue to blossom. To be direct, I intend for the choir of Trinity to become the best choir in our region, no contest. Continuing to improve our music program will beget growth in our congregation, as well as increase this church's capacity to transform our community. We are well on our way, and the commitment of this church will see it happen sooner than any of us can imagine. If we long to see Christ dwell among us, to see our community and culture radically transformed by love, which is God, we must commit ourselves to continuing to strengthen and improve our corporate worship. You can do that by your gifts, of course, but also by your service. If you love to sing, the choir is the place for you. It's the home you've been looking for, even and especially if you feel you are under-equipped and unprepared. The choir is a place of learning, silliness, and joy, not hardship and strife, and we want you to join us. But whether you join the choir or no, I encourage us all to strive to sing as John Wesley compels us, lustily. Put another way, release your inhibitions, fears, and shame, open your mouth, and worship. Knock, and the door will be opened. Seek, and you will find. If we worship pure love, intending to be transformed into pure love, we will be. Believe it. Thank you.